some news of Garcia and Barrios, a fight we've been talking about quite a bit on the channel. It was first thought it would be an Amazon Prime pay-per-view. Maybe it still will be. I don't think that's officially confirmed or deconfirmed. I just made that term up. But because in the past, fights like Canelo versus Munguia were on both platforms, Amazon Prime and on DAZN. But that might not be the case now, as it's announced that Garcia Barrios will be on DAZN pay-per-view with Turki Al-Sheikh promoting it. So, I definitely got some thoughts on this. I think Oscar De La Hoya was playing a game of leverage with Turki Al-Sheikh. It was reported that his deal was probably up early this year to start this year in 2026. I think that's a big reason why Turki Al-Sheikh was not funding Boots Ortiz, that potential fight. He wanted De La Hoya to eventually get in line, or else the funding was going to be pulled for such a fight like Boots Ortiz and other fights down the road. I think Turki, by doing this, successfully hamstrings PBC's efforts a little bit, who have the champion Barrios, and also gets Oscar De La Hoya back in line towards what his plans, as he has with Eddie Hearn, obviously, and some others. So there's a lot of moving parts going along with this. I definitely think this affects Benavidez versus Zurdo down the line in May. I definitely suspect he'll be taking over that card as well, just like he's taking over this one, a joint PBC Golden Boy card. So I'm curious. But essentially PBC is pushed out as the lead promoter now, and it'll be a Turki Al-Sheikh card similar to how he's doing Shakur versus Teofimo, which Eddie Hearn will be a figurehead of. He'll be at the podium and everything, but it'll ultimately be Turki calling the shots. I got a lot of thoughts about this as it pertains to De La Hoya and others. But what's your opening thoughts on this latest development of Garcia Barrios?
It's a master move on the promotion level. The landscape is simply what it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's no place for you to maneuver if you want to have the top fighters, because the top fighters now know without you as a promoter, they can go straight to the source. So it's almost now incentivized for a smart fighter who has his own marquee value, like a Ryan Garcia, love him or hate him, you got an opinion on him. And that means that turns into pay-per-view buys, that turns into asses and seats, that turns into subscriptions for DAZN, that turns into big fights. And if you know that you have that value, then your promoter really, at this point, just stands in the way if Turki wants to work with you. And you don't need a middleman anymore. That's the danger for all these promoters, whether they be in cahoots and really in good stead with Turki or not. The reality is any fighter can obfuscate their promoter and go directly to the source. As long as they have a good relationship with His Excellency, then they've got an excellent shot at getting a big fight for big money on the biggest platform. Oscar is right now in a spot where he has no security in that his DAZN deal is done, his relationship with Ryan Garcia is fucked, and this big fight on the horizon for Ortiz and Boots isn't done. And Ortiz may not be the A side of that fight. And if you lose Ryan and Ortiz has an out and Boots is the A side and Ryan's the A side and they both want the big money and they'll get it on the DAZN side with Turki, what are you offering as Oscar on the other side? Trying to make the fighters work for the promotion company so that the promotion company can get the best deal off the back of the popularity of the fighters? That never really should be the game, but it has been for a long time. But game has officially changed now because the fighters have someplace else to go. If Floyd Mayweather taught us nothing, ironically, in the leaving of Top Rank with the assistance of Al Heyman, it's that if you have a way out of your promoter and you can negotiate for yourself or have someone who's an advisor, let's call Turki Al-Sheikh an advisor, an excellent advisor with a lot of leverage and an opportunity to give you big money, then that's the way you make the most money possible. Unless a promoter can offer something that is competitive with the purse that His Excellency can offer, then what's the promoter doing for you? That's the no man's land Oscar finds himself in. So he's not leading the fighters. The fighters are leading him.
Well, I think one difference I want to paint with Heyman and Mayweather, and Heyman's gotten all the deserved, criticism over the last decade since, and his reign has obviously come to an end as the top broker in boxing for about 2 years now, right? But the difference was when Floyd left Heyman for greener pastures to make more money than he'd ever make with who he was with at the time, Top Rank. It was money they actually drew at the box office. They actually wound up eating what they kill. They wound up killing so much at the box office that they got to eat all that. Turkey's cards are not killing in the United States. It's just, again, I know people were tired of me hearing it. He's backed by a public investment fund of his government, which is backed by the natural resource oil. I digress, right? But to quote, go ahead.
I get, but Sean,
There's
that
a
doesn't
difference,
matter. It doesn't
well,
matter
not
to
to
the
the fighters,
fighter
it doesn't. Not to the
who's
fighters.
making the money, right?
Right.
Like, okay, I can understand how that might matter to you, and it might matter. I can't speak for every fighter. Maybe that matters to somebody, but you say that Mayweather was eating what he killed, and they were really earning that money at the gate. Okay, fine. It spends those dollars spend exactly the same as the dollars that you get from any fund in Saudi Arabia or whomever is paying signing the checks. If you take that check to the bank and get the same currency, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a fighter that makes that distinction and cares about it. If the difference is earning this much money at the gate and getting half what you can earn by a guy signing a check for whatever reason he wants to pay you that much money, it's going to be really difficult to choose the gate over the money because I agree with this to an extent also. You're still earning the money. If Turki Al-Sheikh is the biggest boxing fan in the world and willing to pay millions and tens of millions of dollars for his ticket, basically, to see your fight, well, then, yeah, maybe you don't sell 50,000 tickets. You just got to sell one ticket to a guy who's willing to pay 50,000 times as much.
1000%, you are correct that no fighter will ultimately give a shit, right? But I care, and what I mean is I'm just pointing out the reality and the difference of earning and eating what you kill $10 million versus having a sugar daddy who will finance you for $10 million. For myself personally, I stand on it. For me, I'd feel much better about myself as a man if I earned $10 million, let's say on this channel, which is not going to happen. Maybe it will.
It might.
It might. But, okay, but what I'm saying is right. I shouldn't put that cap on myself because it can be done. But I feel much more proud of myself as a man making $10 million, eating what I kill on my own work, on my own channel, for example, or where else I could make it happen, as opposed to just being financed by somebody because they really like me. I think that's the real G way to get it, to be honest. And I'll speak on that in general. I've been critical of the promoters putting the sport in this predicament, the managers, and I was critical of Canelo and Crawford because they were saying, someone like Crawford was saying, the 10, 20, 30 million dollars I can actually draw in America, eat what I kill. That's not enough. I want upwards of 50 or more. Canelo Alvarez, the 50, 60, 40 million I can actually draw in the United States. That's not enough. I want 100 plus million. It was easy for me to say that about them. Now I got to say it about basically all the fighters. And I know all their fans will come in my comments and their managers and everybody will be mad at me because they quote, and it's true, it's a very true quote, risk their lives every time they go in there, which is true. And that's why for time immemorial in this sport, we have lionized the fighters and given them the utmost respect. But when soldiers go to war and it's on some bullshit, some of them got spat on when they came back from Vietnam. They're soldiers risking their lives every day. But if the public decides the war they're fighting is bullshit or they don't agree with why they're going to war or something like that, they receive tons of criticism. When police, who technically risk their lives a lot doing the job they do, oftentimes, when they don't act accordingly or when they're doing something the public doesn't agree with, they get criticized for it. They get called out. So what I'm saying is nobody, even the fighters who risk their lives, and I'll always respect them on that level for that, they are not above this criticism either. And so if you're doing this, I'm not a fan of it, and I'm going to keep it real. And I've given a lot of reasons why. I do think this is even connected in part with why TKO is treading water with their early cards. And keep in mind, it's being reported throughout, with whether it's Live Golf, whether it's some of the soccer stuff. There is reports nationally heading late into last year, early into this year, that they're hemorrhaging money with the public investment fund, and some of that is getting slashed. So if you're TKO, you just continue to allow the Saudis to do this to the market until it eventually dries up, and then you can take over the market when thereafter, right? But to be fair, I'll finish with a Godfather 2 quote, and then you get to cooking like you're one to do. You're right, 1,000%. They don't care where the dollars come from as long as they're getting it, right? And I have to quote Michael Corleone. My father told me is to try to think like the people around them, and everyone around us is businessmen. Their loyalty is to that, okay? And so what he was saying is that's why all these people would ultimately be loyal to Hyman Roth, who was conspiring to take him out or whatever. And it's because they're ultimately businessmen at the end of the day, businessmen over blood or honor and all that stuff. And that's the quote it reminds me of. So of course Oscar eventually bent the knee to an offer he can't refuse to Turki Al-Sheikh. But what I think, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Oscar, once upon a time, he felt swindled by Heyman and Schaefer and Espinoza and all them, right? So this time he's going along with it, right? So maybe in a way I'm wrong. Maybe it's that last time I didn't play ball. This time I will. I'll swallow my pride and work with the guys who are taking over the game this time around, right? But ultimately, he said he's gonna go with your arch nemesis, Dana White. That's who he's gonna partner with to destroy everything. And you're down to maybe your last fight with Ryan Garcia, anyways. And if you're gonna take Ortiz and make the Boots fight, Ortiz is elite just like Boots is elite. But Boots is a different kind of versatile, special talent. And yeah, he's loosey-goosey sometimes. He fights with his chin exposed too much sometimes. But I think for this assignment, Boots will tighten it up. And I think Boots beats Ortiz. So if you get that fight made, you play ball with Turki, I think you're going to get your guy beat, as opposed to making him a champion, pursuing a Fundora fight, or taking a really easy fight that on a competitive level I don't really want to see, but from a money level, fighting in Texas against Spence makes sense. Your guy would win that fight too. And then eventually Zurdo, he's going to get beat by Benavidez in May. So you may be one way or the other. You might be on your way out either way, Oscar. But you could at least, as Don Corleone said to Johnny Fontaine, you could be a man. You can go out holding your dick.
There's a lot to unpack there, and yes. So let me just give you a nugget for each bit.
Please do.
First of all, we cannot overlook the fact, like when you talk about soldiers coming home and cops who are risking their lives. Well, if the soldiers are indeed fighting for something that their countrymen do believe in, are protecting the homeland, and are viewed that way, they don't get spat on. If a cop is saving you from being assaulted or stopping your house from being robbed or catching a criminal who has done you dirty and making them pay the price of justice, you're not protesting that cop. If you're getting fights that you want in the matchups when they should be happening, then you're not mad at that fighter for taking the money of whichever promoter or whichever fund or from whichever country it's coming, because you're getting what the fighter is meant to deliver to you, and you want what they have to offer. And the truth is exactly what you said about Virgil Ortiz taking another route. Well, those aren't fights that we want nearly as bad as Boots Ennis. You're going to end up giving them a lesser product so that the promotion company can have some independence, not what the fighter has his best opportunity, not the fans getting what they actually want to see when they want to see it. And so that is going to be what gets the fighter spat on. That's what's going to get Ortiz being called a duck. That's what's going to make it look like Ortiz is dodging the fight because he doesn't think he can win. That's a problem. And you talk about Oscar De La Hoya and what he has learned from that Richard Schaefer, um, Mayweather,
Espinoza,
Al
Haynes.
Heyman situation is that these fighters ain't loyal. The Canelo taught him that, if nothing else. And so you think he's going to leverage his whole company and future as a promoter on Ortiz or the loyalty of Ryan Garcia after what he's been through with Canelo? No, at least if he gets his fighter beat, but he plays ball with His Excellency, then he gets to keep his fighter and give his fighter another shot at another big payday and another chance. He'll probably get a rematch and then get another fight that he wants. He keeps his fighter getting big money, which keeps the promotion company getting big money. And His Excellency will let you continue to promote your fighters instead of taking your fighters from you. And so, yeah, Oscar's learned the lessons, but those are tough lessons to learn. And I think both cases, it really is his only option if he wants to survive, because who's he going to partner with? The guy who tried to take his company in the first place?
Right.
Or the guy who's willing to let him keep his company and maybe put his fighter in a fight that he might not win? That's no choice at all.
Well, okay, I'm happy you fleshed that out. Great points as always. But about Boots and Ortiz, I agree that Boots and Ortiz is the superior product, since we're starting to talk about boxing like they talk about wrestling now, right? We use these terms that they use in MMA, and since it's all going to be bought up by the same people eventually, I do think Boots versus Ortiz is superior product. But I think what I'm getting at is if Eddie were to take Boots and get him the winner of Josh Kelly Bakram, which is happening, I think, in the next couple weeks here in January, right? And if Ortiz fights Fundora, which is a fight that should be mandated by the WBC, who's bullshitting as usual, and PBC is making us sit through a Thurman fight that nobody's asking for. No, it's kind of a waste of time. Sure, could Keith Thurman win? Sure, he could, in theory, win. He won't, probably, in all likelihood. So in a fight that, again, nobody's asking for, we should be getting Virgil versus Fundora right now. So they're still bullshitting with each other. Golden Boy and PBC not making the fight they should make. WBC's not making the fight they should make. So maybe everybody's day of reckoning is coming anyways. And I understand all that. But what I'm getting at, if built properly, the fight doesn't need a sugar daddy. The fight could be an actual big fight in America. And as I'm saying, as a sugar daddy keeps pumping money that's not really there, that's not really being drawn, there will be some long-term repercussion, I suspect, because of that in boxing in the United States in some way, shape, or form. We got to let things play out. And so if Ortiz were to fight Fundora and Boots were to fight the winner of Josh Kelly Bakram, now it would be a unification where there is no other argument who's the number 154, because as of right now, it's an interim title fight. It's not even a full title fight. And if it had the proper build, and we all think that it's the best fight at 154, but if they actually handled their business and took out the two top champions at 154 and the winner of Bakram Kelly and Fundora, then it wouldn't be undisputed, because Andres Zayas is about to have 2 belts, I think, against Abis Barral on the same night as Tio Shakur. But it would essentially be no dispute as to who is the top man, who is the champion at 154. As of now, it's an interim title fight that needs funding from a sugar daddy. If it was done the right way, it'd be a unification that would maybe be such a big fight in America, they could, eat what they kill and still make a ton of money. That's what I'm getting at right there.
It's a lot of ifs, Sean. It's a lot of ifs. And one of the big ifs that you haven't mentioned is if any of these guys really capture the imagination of the American audience. None of these guys are stars, including Boots. None of these guys are superstars. I'd say the one who's most likely is the one that's not in your scenario, which is Boots. So who's to say, even if we get to the place that you've described and know that the king at 154 can be crowned this way, will they be able to kill enough to eat anywhere near what they could get if they play ball? Probably, maybe not. Now, maybe a star emerges and somebody captures the imagination and somebody becomes that guy. Certainly that's possible, but it's not likely. It's not likely. I'm not seeing anyone that's on that trajectory to like to become a crossover star outside of hardcore boxing fans, or all of a sudden become a marquee idol or a matinee idol, I should say, or a big endorsement guy. What you're banking on really is that you want things to be done the right way, but it's really just a moral victory. The money way is where to go where the money is. And you can't even rule out that these fights could still happen in America. By the biggest fight on the schedule this
I think
year,
they will.
by far, is happening in New York.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be. So they are killing in New York. That's a massive fight. It's a great card. People are going to pay for it, rightly so, and get value for dollar. So I understand the principle, and I'm not arguing against the principle, but sadly, I might just be jaded. I might be over the moralizing about this business. I am a disillusioned, couple decades in hard-nosed boxing journalist, and maybe I don't see that shining ring on the hill. Like I've seen too much, and it's certainly in the last several years, to believe anymore that anybody is doing this so that they can do it the right way, or even that boxing as an institution has some soul that anybody's out to protect. And it hurts me to even say that, but that's how it's felt for some time. And now that His Excellency has come in, I think the reason he's able to be this successful is because what I just said is true. It is what Dana White said. Every fight is a fire sale. It's a going out of business sale. And a guy came in and backed the Brinks truck up to a going out of business sale and bought everything.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely appreciate you, bringing everything back to reality for us as I go off the deep end. Didn't Omar from The Wire say, still haven't watched the show. I got through season 1 at one point. I have to watch The Wire, I know. But didn't he say a man's gotta have a code?
Yes.
That's all I'm trying to do here. Okay, but it's really a microcosm of this country, isn't it, Raheem? What's going on in boxing? Am I accurate to say
As
that?
it always is.
Yeah, yeah.
If you ever want to know what's happening in America, and if you want to understand what's happening in any particular pocket of the world at times, take a look at what's happening in boxing. It's either a a ballet playing out as an interpretive dance of what's happening in the world, or it's literally Schmeling Lewis. Like it's actually the guys representing the two different mindsets or governments who have opposing views or are at war, and they are fighting for their national pride and to represent who is the dominant warrior and bring to the forefront whatever ideology is backing them. It can be as racial as Jack Johnson and Jeff Jeffries. It can be as international as Louis Schmeling, and it can also be as cultural as Chavez de la Hoya. Like boxing will tell the story, and right now, take a look at the landscape, good, bad, and ugly, and it's all in there. You'll get a good microcosm of not just America, but if we're honest, even the world at large, where the value is placed, what people are putting their stock in, and how people are prioritizing, yeah, their ethics against the almighty dollar.
Yeah, Ali Frazier as well. What they turned Joe Frazier into to oppose what Ali stood for as well. And funny enough, Mayweather is maybe the decadence that comes before the fall. And as Again, as you know, I'll be quick with it, but as the United States goes more and more closer to $40 trillion in debt, and the Republicans and Democrats are playing this huge whataboutism game back and forth. Is well, Donald Trump's a rapist on a pedophile on Epstein Island. Well, what about Minnesota money laundering hundreds of millions of dollars in daycare centers? Well, what about the ICE agents killing someone in Minnesota? And nobody acknowledges the truths either side says. They just keep playing this game. And while all the manufacturing is shipped overseas to China, the last thing worth a fuck in America is sports and entertainment, and international influence is picking the bones of that as well. You know, whether it's in the NBA now with their sponsorships, it's beginning in the NFL, which and it's here in boxing and in golf and everywhere. But I digress. Back to Garcia and Barrios. I was arguing recently Barrios this, Barrios that, and I still don't count him out to win this fight. But again, I definitely agree with you that I have Ryan Garcia winning this fight. I think his speed will overwhelm. He just has to do in spots. I think Barrios has enough power to make Garcia respect him, but not enough power like Rolly Romero to make him fear him. And Garcia will still have enough bursts of speed to find the hook, because that's what allowed him to find the hook against Haney in their first fight. And I'm saying their first fight because I think inevitably they will fight again. And we've talked about how that might wind up being the biggest fight in the United States. And that fight would not need a sugar daddy. If Garcia handles his business against Barrios, that's a huge fight with or with who, regardless of who the financier is of that fight. And on a separate note too, quick, what some would say hot take. You know, I think Haney is going to make a run at number one pound for pound here right now. I don't think anyone's going to get in his way at 147. The Garcia fight might be the most dangerous fight of them all, the rematch if Garcia looks getting good against Barrios. But I think the Lewis Crockers, Rolly Romero's, trying to remember who the WBA or Rolly's the WBA. Who's the WBO? Well, he's the WBO champ. And well, Ryan Barrios winner will be the WBC champ. I think if he can get past Garcia in a rematch and fight smarter than he did in fight one, I think no one's going to beat him at welterweight for the foreseeable future. And I think by the time he makes it to 54, guys like Fundora will have moved up. Boots and Ortiz might not be there anymore and all that. So separate note there. But yeah, I'm with you. I definitely got Garcia winning that fight next month, February 21st against Barrios.
Yeah, just a quick note on that. My opinion hasn't changed. In fact, I think now that it is on DAZN, now that His Excellency is involved, that it only spurs Ryan on further to know that a victory here does ensure great treasures and fortune, massive fights, and a secure future as he pursues then a real champion's resume. Because for all of his fanfare, all of his popularity, all of his already gotten gains, he's never been a world champion. And once he becomes that, I think he will have the motivation, the focus, the discipline even to retain it, or at least fight for it like he wants to retain it. I think that makes for a better Ryan. This is going to be the motivation that really, if he's not focused, which we don't know if he is, we just speculated based on what we have and have not seen, this might narrow his focus just in time, 6 weeks out, and he'll step in on February 21st ready to go. And I think he beats Barrios. But it ain't for sure. It
No,
damn sure ain't for sure.
no, a couple things, and then we'll sign off. Is to quote another awesome Mexican American, Eddie Guerrero, rest in peace. Because I said in December, well, this is my last spiel on TKO and Saudi and Turkey, Ari Emanuel, all that for a minute. Eddie Guerrero once said, "But I lied." Okay, so there you go. And then separately,
Go ahead.
and, go ahead.
Well, I also just wanted to say, for Barrios' sake, because, you know, it should also be said that there is a great reward ahead for him as well. Even though he is the champion, I don't feel like the pressure is on him. I don't feel like most people respect or expect much from him. There are definitely those who are calling him to win the fight.
Mhm.
And I respect him. However, I don't think he's going to be feeling the kind of pressure that Ryan feels. He's seen Ryan beaten. He saw Rolly knock him down. I'm sure Barrios thinks he's a better fighter than Rolly Romero. He's already the champion. This is his weight class. He's the guy who has a lot to prove, and nobody expected him to be able to prove it. So, listen, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination counting Barrios out, and you might see a better Barrios. We might be watching the fight and be like, who is this guy? I could see a night like that. And I really hope it's a night like that because I want to see Ryan really tested with no excuses, no tests, whether they be negative or no questions. I want no weight drain. I want 100% level playing field, both guys at their absolute best. And then we see what the real is. It was Pacquiao just a lapse for Barrios. He was too impressed or had the wrong game plan or whatever it was. And he really is the true champion. And was Ryan distracted or was Ryan cheating or was Ryan whatever? What happens when both of these guys are on a level playing field fighting at their best? Whoever comes through, there is a beautiful potential future ahead for them. And I think Barrios has the best chance of shocking the world because the world's not anticipating him to win and maybe underestimating his ability to do exactly that.
No, 100%. And I said that on our last discussion about it, is that he's not a guy that really likes the pressure. He likes to be low key and come in kind of underestimated. And again, he's going to have a level, again, the Aztec against the Conquistador, the native again. I'm calling it. That's the fight for me. Again, like Vargas, who came in as the Aztec warrior against Oscar De La Hoya, the pretty boy from LA. I know, Ryan's from Victorville, but still that kind of Southern California against the guy who aligns himself more with the Aztec Mayan background. I think I think Barrios doesn't respect Garcia a quarter as much as he did Manny Pacquiao, who he had too much respect for. So between him coming in with low expectations, between him probably having even maybe a level of contempt for Garcia, certainly not having the level of respect for him he did for Manny Pacquiao, I think you are going to see a better Mario Barrios and a Barrios with Joe Goosen in his corner for some familiarity. And they're probably going to, part of the game plan will be make this guy beat you with something else other than his left hook, which is why I think Garcia is going to have to press that button sometimes in staccato bursts like he did against Haney to get the hook off, because Garcia or Barrios is going to keep it tight right here and try to keep that right hand up all night. But we'll see. I don't count Barrios out either, but I favor Garcia's athleticism to be the difference in what could be a really good fight. I think it will be a good fight. I'm looking forward to the fight itself. But with Garcia, when the name of our last video is Ryan distracted? Is Ryan not focused, right? Fool me once, Raheem. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. The last time we said that, and again, it rightfully got overturned to a no contest, but the last time we said that, he shocked everybody in the ring against Haney. So I'm not going for it. When we think he's not focused, he looks great. When we thought he was focused for Romero and he was a big favorite, he did not look good. So I'm not going for it a second time. I'm not going for the pump fake. I think Garcia wins.
I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe.